we decided that we're going to do a different kind of Q&A. It's not just going to be all asking questions and a few, me asking her questions and letting you ask a few. We're going to almost open it right up to you right away. I'm going to start with one question, which is, so now when you look at yourself in the mirror, are you seeing more of the Jamie that you had felt inside?
Yes. Yes, and I've just completed surgery in Costa Rica, October 29th, to finish the, I call it the rehanging of the curtains. Basically, you readjust the skull to the proper shape, and then you redress the face to hang properly on the skull. And it's a two-step process, so I just finished it, and I'm very happy with the results so far. It's all very scary, but it's coming out fine, so yeah.
And you had already done some facial surgery in Spain with that group?
Yeah, no, with a different group. I went to Spain
with the group that was in the film?
Correct. I went there. They did just skulls. They just go in and they take your skull and they reconfigure it, as bizarre as that may sound. And then this guy did just skin, and he hung my skin.
Questions, comments? Yes, in the back.
Great.
A microphone, hello. Anyway, I'm getting my surgery at the end of September, and I'm like, any advice? Because, it's a lot.
Well,
congratulations.
Well, honey, I'm so pleased and happy to hear that for you.
Thank you.
You know, this is a really big topic for transgender people, and that's because there's so much uncertainty and fear in the process, and quite frankly, you feel like you're kind of going in for a crapshoot every time. I know how that feels, and I'm sure you've done your homework and chosen the best possible person for you to do the procedure.
Yes.
So I can assure you, fortunately, we're at the state of the art is that you're going to come out fabulous, okay? So hang in there. It's not nearly as bad as you might think it's going to be, and in the end, you're going to feel so much more complete as a person.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Another question? Yes, Nigel.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. You have explained so much to me that I had no idea about and always thought about. And it's so wonderful to see you both there today. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Jamie. I'm really overwhelmed by the film, and I think it's a lovely film, and I think the distribution of this film is vital that it be seen by the whole population of this country that seems to have so much fear of this. And I'd like to ask, have your daughters seen the film?
Mm-hmm.
And what is their reaction?
So who's seen the film?
Daughters.
Oh, my daughters. They my youngest daughter Tina has refused to see the film. I'm sure she will at some point. She really just can't manage emotionally to look at it right now. On the other hand, our relationship and the relationship with all of my family members except my brother are absolutely fantastic. I can't imagine them being any better, whatever my gender was. I mean, we're getting along great. We support each other. We love each other. So it's all good. And, you know, sometimes things take time before you're prepared to really confront the reality. And when she's ready, she will.
And Angie did see it. Angie came to a big screening we had in New York and was very, very positive about it.
Oh, Angie's amazing. They're both amazing. So, yeah, she's seen it. My ex has seen it. Pretty much all my family members that matter to me have seen it. Thank you. And I just want to say about the distribution issue, yes, it does need to be distributed. I think it's important to understand this film was not made for transgender people. It was made for you because we want you to be our allies in this difficult problem ahead, which is being accepted for who we are. And particularly this group of people and this generation, is the most important to reach with this message.
You succeeded,
Because
Roger.
most of us don't know transgender people, or certainly don't know them well enough to be able to say, yo, what's it like? So that's why we're thinking. Yes, Mira. Wait, microphone coming.
Thanks. It's such a fascinating choice to allow and to commit to doing this as something that you're going to share with the world in this way. And as a filmmaker, and any of us who are filmmakers know this, at some point, the fact that the film is being made becomes part of the dynamic of what you are doing and what you're going through. Now, obviously, in this case, Roger is someone who you've known for the better part of your grown life. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how that dynamic played out, and to what extent you may at times not only have not wanted to go through with it, but have regretted the idea that you were doing it in a film, or to what extent the film in some way gave you the moxie, the courage, the grit, the commitment to go on with what you were doing. Because I think that dynamic is so embedded in what we see here in this wonderful document of what happened.
Well, I don't think if I had not known Roger and Ken Burns for 40 plus years and had a long conversation with them where basically I tried to talk them out of the idea that this was a good thing to do, and they convinced me that it was important to do, and the real story, because I had all these other ideas about what the story was. That I had to get over that hump and realize that I had a unique opportunity. Now, there's also the issue of my safety and privacy. And I have put myself at risk making this film because there are places everywhere where people, I mean, I don't mean to sound overly dramatic, but people will kill me over this, you know? And the fact that I've made this film means that when I travel and do things, somebody may get very angry at me. But you know, somebody's got to do it. Right?
So, Jamie lives outside of Boston. I'm in New York. I would drive up for the major things that were happening in her life and in her transition. But in between, there was a lot more that was going on. I mean, Jamie called me and told me she was doing this, and I instantly put my foot in my mouth and said, "Oh, are you having a sex change?" And she kindly said yes, and of course, she wasn't having a sex change. So she was very generous with me the whole time. As you see, she's a very talented television engineer. She's got a half a dozen GoPros, and I said, "Okay, you have to do video diaries." And she found the car was the most comforting place for her.
I call it my confessional.
Right. So, but she would come back from some horrific encounter with a doctor or a family member or Carol or something, and I go, "Jamie, go to your car." And there were times that she didn't like me for that. And the other thing is, the film could not have been made had Jamie not been a photographer and not documented her whole life and not organized it. Because imagine what there would be without those hundreds of photos that are in the film. At the very end, she really got sick and tired of me because I kept saying, "No, I need this kind of picture. No, I need this kind of picture. Can you please find this kind of picture? Can you even go and shoot something of you?" You know, walking down the path came much, much later. But
it was really a collaborative process and pretty miserable sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know.
Up there, sir.
Go ahead.
How difficult was it to get the medical professionals to cooperate?
You want to speak to that? Well, we were fortunate in Marcy Bowers because she's a bit of a marketing hound. She really wants to get out there because she has a strong message. I think you understand that she is transgender herself. Well, she's the only surgeon. There's maybe one other surgeon I know of who's transgender and performing this procedure. So
she's internationally recognized as
Yes.
one of the top surgeons in the
the world.
field, and Sutter Health was quite open to it after we talked to her, because everybody wants to have not just the publicity but the pat on the back. So that was fine.
But the good news about Marcy, by the way, she's done more than just perform the surgery. She's going around training doctors all over the world to do this surgery correctly, so that there isn't the fear that many of us have about it being botched, you know? So that's one of the reasons she participated.
She's also very well known for correcting genital mutilations. And she travels to Africa a few times a year, and it turns out that it can be reversed. Yes, ma'am, right there.
You mentioned you could be afraid for your life. Why do you think people have such a angry reaction to this?
Well, honestly, sorry guys, the real problem is men. The fact is, women reinforce the issue, but men fear for their own masculinity all the time. And the notion that they could be attracted, and they are very attracted, to transgender people, transgender women particularly, makes them feel insecure because they don't understand. They think they're gay, a lot of other crazy stuff, and for some reason they think there's a problem with being gay. And so their solution is to kill the messenger, you know, and it happens all the time. I mean, in the last Pride Parade, we carried signs of 15 girls have been murdered as at the front of the parade. It's still a problem. And I don't, you know, we're getting there. I was talking to somebody earlier. The alphabet soup now is LGBTQINB. And many people don't know what the NB is, and that means non-binary. So there's a lot of change happening and growth happening in the whole community that is going to remove the stigma eventually.
But that 40% figure that Dr. Bowers mentioned is now 50%. And it's not just children. It's the whole trans world. So, yes.
Can you hear me without the mic? Okay.
I can hear you
Oh, yeah.
both.
Okay. I think a lot of us have read about this, people in your situation or seen things, but never with the intimacy and the vulnerability and the humor that you bring to your story. But I also wonder, do you think if you were 20 years old now and the child of a doctor and knowing what we do know, that your life would have been different?
Oh my God. Well, honey, I can tell you, I know enough 20-year-old transgender people to know how dramatically their lives are different than mine. And I'll take that to an even further extent. I also know a lot of children who we've now support at the age of 5, 6, 7, and 8, and how much dramatically their lives are different than mine. I mean, one of the things that I will never get is the beautiful pelvis that I would have gotten had I had estrogen at the age of 10. That'll never be available to me. But to kids nowadays, we can delay their puberty till they're ready. We can give them the hormones they need, and they can be the shape and form they want to be. For a dysphoric person, that's what it's all about. Presenting, like I say in the film, being able to stand in front of the mirror naked and feel comfortable with yourself, that's a really important thing. And this new generation, and they think that the surgeries they're not going to have to confront, and the facial hair removal. And so yes. Now there's another side to that question. Would I have given up the life that I had to have gone back? That's a tough one because I have 2 wonderful daughters. I had an amazing career, and a lot of other great things happened. So I'm not sure, but it would have been nice to have been able to do both.
Thank you, and I hope your message gets to those young children and to their parents. I mean, I think it is to some extent, but Thank you.
Well, there's an event in Boston every year that if any of you want to find more about it, that is focused for us. It's called First Event. It's been going on for 30 years now, but in the last 10 years, it's become very, very aggressively focused on the issue of gender throughout the age groups. And it happens in January, and that's a great event to tell people about and to go to.
We have time for one more question. Wait, microphone behind you. Coming in.
Very good.
Incoming.
When you talked about the decision to make the film, you talked about your vision of it having initially been different than how it turned out. Can you talk a little bit about what that different vision was and how you got?
As filmmakers, we like to think we have a good idea of what the film will be. But if we're good filmmakers, we will allow the film to find its own path. And so, on the one hand, I can say this is exactly what I wanted the film to be. But in between, I really had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen in that surgery. I didn't know how Jamie and I would interact. We spent a summer talking about perhaps doing the film, and Jamie was in very rough shape, and I would call her not trying to talk about the film, saying, I'm here for you, whatever you need, and inside saying, please, let's do this film, it could be so great. So it's being flexible and saying, oh, you're doing this? Okay, I'm coming to do that with you. Oh, this is happening, do a diary. Oh, and it all happens in the editing. That's where it is. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.